Welcome to I Heart Geek. And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. Notice nobody's screaming because there's only two of us on today, and we're separated by 6,000 miles, 3,000 miles, something like that.
Something like that.
We have talked to this guy a million times on our show, and it's time to actually get him on I Heart Geek proper. This is Dino from the Huuuh podcast. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Keeping along with everybody else, Yeah,
so this
just trying to keep safe and keep contained and doing what we do.
Yep. So we're going to be doing these we're going to be doing a lot of our contributors are going to be coming on the show because we can't really meet up. So we thought we'd do something a little different for the next few weeks. We're going to be putting out podcasts and we're going to just be having a little conversation with some of our frequent contributors. And yeah, you're the most frequentest of contributors anymore.
Yeah.
So let first, before we get started, talk about your show a little bit. What is it exactly that you do on your show?
Our show, it's normally my wife Michelle, and we talk about pop culture, what we've been watching, movie-wise, TV-wise, but we also talk about family and faith. We're homeschooling parents, and we just kind of mix everything in, Being a homeschooling parent, we think that everything is a learning lesson. The world is our classroom. Homeschool isn't just school at home. We break out of the four walls, and a trip to the grocery store is a field trip.
Nice.
And TV, even with Michelle and I, it takes us about an hour and a half to watch a 45-minute long TV show.
Oh, jeez.
Because we normally stop and talk about what's going on.
Uh-huh.
And with our kids, we do the same thing. We analyze almost to a fault. But, we enjoy entertainment, but we also think of everything as a character study, kind of.
Well, that's really awesome, actually, because that makes it so that you're really doing more of you're doing what we're supposed to be doing right now anyway, and you're spending time with family, you're learning from each other, and you're not being bored. You're not just sitting there. That's awesome, actually. I appreciate that. Just so everybody knows, this is going to be a 2-part episode. We're going to be doing the first half on I Heart Geek, and then on the second half, when we finish up, you're going to go over to the Huuuh podcast and listen to that. Now, to be fair, on I Heart Geek, we have our same rules: no politics, no religion, blah blah. However, when we go over to the Huuuh podcast, he has different rules. So if you have a sensitivity to that, but you won't, because you guys are all awesome. So, but just to let you know, we're kind of going to be sticking to that same vein, and then we'll be finishing up the conversation over on that side, which will be. I feel like I'm Chris Jericho, because he used to do that on his show with Kevin Smith, and I'm like, this is cool. So, what are you doing to get through all this? The coronavirus, quarantine, whatever. What are you doing?
What are we doing? We're doing a lot of streaming, and watching shows and watching all that. I am working technically.
Yeah.
I do have a job that I'm normally on site.
Yeah.
Doing things, but I'm doing a lot of continuing education in my field. I do pest control.
Oh, right on.
So there's always a million things to learn about, scientifically, and about bugs and all that. So I'm doing that also. But as far as just trying to get along, we did a lot of our shopping and stocking up beforehand.
She was smart.
Yeah, and we're also in a small town, but we're in a town that is a small town with a super Walmart.
Yeah.
You know.
Actually, is it okay? Can we talk about where are you from?
Yeah, we live in a town called Newberry. It's in South Carolina.
Okay.
In the middle of South Carolina.
I don't hear much of the accent.
No, I'm from New York.
Oh, there it is.
Originally. I grew up on Long Island. Then I moved to Florida. Then my wife and I moved to Tennessee, lived in Nashville for a while, and then moved to South Carolina after that.
So all over the place is what you're saying.
Yeah. See, it's funny because I met my wife in Florida, and we were told we couldn't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved to Nashville. We're both musicians. I'm a guitarist. I'm a bass player. My wife is a percussionist. So we said, let's go. Yeah. We went there to have fun.
Okay.
And then within a year, my wife was pregnant with our son.
Right on.
With that, we moved back to Florida because my parents lived there, Michelle's parents lived there, so we wanted the family unit to be together.
Mm-hmm.
But in the interim, my in-laws bought property in South Carolina that they ended up getting kind of pot committed to.
Yeah.
You're in Vegas, you understand
absolutely
being pot committed. Yeah. So after that, we got pregnant with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But my son had a strong relation with his maternal grandparents, so we moved to South Carolina.
Gotcha.
To be near them. And pest control in Florida was
a lot of snakes.
The economy started tanking. You know, there was a lot of second, third vacation homes that were going into foreclosure.
Gotcha.
The writing was on the wall, so we had to make a change. Moved to South Carolina, and then we had my third child.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like whenever we moved, we had another kid.
So if you want to stop, it's time to move. There you go.
No more moving. That is the common denominator.
Get that new place vibe going. Just changes everything.
Yep.
So no, for a small town, I'm gonna say I've been following you on the social medias for quite a while. You seem like you guys have a lot of art stuff that's in that area, which is for a small area. I mean, you guys did Rocky Horror a couple months ago. And
yeah, in October we were involved in the community production, a shadowcast of Rocky Horror Picture Show. Mm-hmm. We did about a month to 6 weeks of rehearsal for that. I played Riff Raff, and that was a lot of fun.
Hello.
And my kids are always involved in the theater productions. My wife is involved in the theater productions. We've got a lot of antique shops around.
So what kind of audience do you get at shows like this? Because I can't imagine that as you have the most, say, forward-thinking people, like even Rocky Horror, which is from 40 years ago, still will turn people's heads a little bit, like what? In some communities, how do you guys?
It was surprising because some of the older people, we had a lot of older.
Define older.
You know, I'm going to say Gen X and older than that.
Okay.
Came out and enjoyed themselves. And there were some younger, millennials and stuff like that also. But surprisingly, we had a lot of people come out in costume. Yeah. A lot of people who were down with the Rocky Horror vibe. And I know that you're not into politics, nor am I getting into politics, just identifying we are in South Carolina, and it does tend to be more conservative.
Yes, very.
However, it was a good mix, and it was well received. There was a large audience.
Well, see, this is something I love about, today's, geek culture. There is a lot more leniency towards the arts. If you're not doing things to be edgy, And yes, when Rocky Horror was written, it was written to be edgy. Let's be honest; it's not there anymore. But it's great that people can kind of get past that and enjoy the entertainment factor. Something I'm going to want to talk to you about on your episode is the horror stuff. But we'll get to that. We'll get on that because there's something particular I want to ask, but I want to put it on your show. So definitely check out the Huuuh podcast because I have a great conversation that I want to have with you. So. What are you watching right now? What's the last few things you've been watching that you've really enjoyed? You've seen us. We're doing our geek suggestions every day. What are some of your suggestions for getting through all this? Okay,
what we just started, and I had mentioned it on my last episode, and we'd only watched I think 1 or 2 episodes at that point. Is a show called Manifest.
Okay,
and it's on NBC. And we're watching it on Hulu because we kind of cut the cord on it.
So did we.
And we are into the second season right now. We're 2 episodes into the second season of Manifest.
Okay.
And it is a show about an airline that hit some turbulence and then disappeared.
Okay, yeah, I remember hearing about this, yeah?
Yeah. And then 5.5 years later, it shows up out of nowhere. But no one on the plane lost any time at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a kid who was 10 years old. He shows up, he's 10 years old. The trick is, his twin sister wasn't on that flight. So she is 15 and a half.
Gotcha.
So there's that difference. And anyone on the flight now, they're getting what they call calling. Voices in their head, they're seeing visions that are kind of putting them on a mission to correct some wrongs, maybe, to change things that would be happening, to kind of solve cases or whatever.
So is it kind of a similar vibe to Heroes? That's what it's sounding like. A very similar vibe.
Because they don't necessarily they don't have powers like in Heroes, you know.
But the storyline feels similar.
But it's kind of like that, and they're all kind of connected. The people, and I'm really enjoying it. So far, 2 seasons are on Hulu. As far as I know, I think it's still running currently on NBC.
Yeah.
Monday nights.
It's on Monday nights on NBC.
Well, no one watches regular TV anymore. Let's be honest.
No, yeah. And everyone waits a couple of days and goes on to Hulu. We're doing that. We're keeping current with... We do have our guilty pleasure reality shows that we're into because it's
that's a dirty word here.
Fodder, you know. Yeah. But even dumb crap like Masked Singer.
Oh, I enjoy the heck out of that. How many of you guessed?
We're about 50%, I think.
This season I got Palin. I knew that one.
Mm-hmm. Did you?
I did. As soon as he said the mama bear thing, I'm like, that's who that's gonna be. That's who it's gonna be. I'm like, yep, that's her.
That was impressive. We were shocked by that one.
And I knew the Dionne Warwick. This season has been harder though. They've been disguising themselves a lot better. First season, I was about 90%. But
yeah, because. And, you know, with the T-Rex, and I mentioned this on the podcast, you know, my daughter, my youngest, is very into JoJo Siwa.
Uh-huh.
And while they were doing the, you know, clue package at very first, I had a vibe in my head. I'm like, that kind of describes JoJo to me. As soon as she sang the first line of the song, my daughter was in the other room. And she goes, "Is that JoJo?" I mean, she picked up on it. She's 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yep, that is definitely her."
Oh,
so
you definitely need to get that kid into an instrument.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things that if they can hear that kind of stuff, they're going to get so many subtleties in music.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I guess that's a side note. I don't know if that's even part of the show, but yeah, that's amazing actually.
Well, that's kind of like with my middle child, Nico. When she was 2 years old, we had her crib in our living room, and it was when the Muppets movie, the newer Muppets.
Oh yeah.
That came out. When that one came, the one with Amy Adams. When that one came out, my daughter, who was at that time about 2 years old, would mimic the movie step by step with choreography, and she didn't speak well, but she would mumble all the parts. So we said, well, she's going to be a theater girl.
Oh, that's cool.
Because she was able to pick up on cues, and so that kind of, we're pretty sensitive to that,
But yeah, I know some of the parents on that listen to us definitely understand where you're coming from on that one. It's something it's something you can get better at and get okay at, but there's something you're born with or you're not. A lot of this stuff. It's unfortunate sometimes, but it's awesome too. That's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, and of course, us being musicians, we're sensitive to, or we might be hypersensitive to looking at our kids and trying to figure out what pocket they fit in, as far as musically, or do they have a singing proclivity, or, any type of art in general. Yeah. So
do you do all the music on your show? Do you do that live and just multi-track it, or what do you do?
No, the music that I'm using, our theme song, the new segment, Hear What We're Saying, Not What We're Not Saying. Yeah. The, all the bumpers, those were all files that I had from a band I was in.
Right on.
Back in about 98 or 99. And my buddy Sean, who was our guitarist, he was like our band archivist. I was in a doo-wop band with him in New York.
You do run the gambit on music, do you?
Oh, I do. Yeah, we were a blues band. We did a cappella doo-wop in the hallways of his college, in the stairway, for the acoustic. We did blues, everything. But then at that point, we were trying to, it was a side band. It was like a 3-piece power trio, a little Primus inspired, So we did that, and he recorded all that stuff. So I had contacted him and said, hey, do you have that audio? He goes, yeah, I still have it. I said, well, can you convert it to MP3 and send it to me? And he did that. So I took a lot of that, and I used that for all the music in my show right now.
That's awesome. So what are you listening to right now? I know this is going to be a lot of quarantine questions, because that's kind of where we're all at. But I say we're all getting time to dig back into things. What are you listening to right now?
I am one of those old guys that even before the quarantine, I'm one of those guys, like, if I don't watch award shows, I don't watch, because I don't know who anybody is anymore. Yeah. And it might be closed-minded of me. I'm 45 years old, and I'm not up on the current music unless it's shoved down my throat.
Gotcha.
So I listen to classic rock. I listen to heavy metal, older heavy metal. That's 50s and 60s. And I listen to a whole lot of podcasts, and I have been, for the longest time. Actually, I've only been into podcasting for maybe 2 or 3 years. I've been listening to podcasts. Because and before that, it was talk radio.
Yeah, I did a lot of talk radio.
And now, I was that old guy that listened to AM radio.
Yeah, well, I was 18 and listening to AM radio, so.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. So the whole podcasting thing, that's kind of an interesting transition that we can talk about a little bit. How did you get into it, you heard it, you decided, hey, I can do this, connect with the right people, yada yada. What's your story with the whole podcasting thing?
Let's see. I probably got into it. It started off, I was listening to like sermons, like Christian sermons and stuff. And I also had a friend of mine that had a talk podcast, but never really listened to it. But it started off with sermons and a Facebook group I got involved with, and I wanted to hear this one guy speak. So started listening to his podcast, which was faith-based. And then I had watched a horror movie, and while I was searching, I was involved in Facebook groups, horror Facebook groups and stuff like that. And there was one movie that everyone seemed to love, and I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I must be missing something. Am I part of the, am I the one kid that sees the Emperor has no clothes, but everyone else doesn't? Surely someone needs to agree with me. So I looked up the movie under podcast to see if there was anybody talking about it. And found one podcast that was talking specifically, and I'm like, someone is taking an hour to talk to other people only about one movie?
How is that possible?
Okay. Yeah. So I listened to it, and I said, okay. And then from there, I heard the guest from that podcast. So I found their podcast. And then it was
it's a big web from there.
I was piggybacking onto other podcasts. And then I heard one, and while everyone else was talking, I was noticing they were making, not that they were making mistakes in what they were talking about, but they didn't have all the answers of things. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you don't have to know everything about a topic in order to talk about it. And when these people are corrected on something, they're not all
fighting it.
Well, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I can do this. And coming home, I have about a 45 minute drive. That's a long haul. A 45-minute drive home from my office to my work, to home. And I would call my buddy Andrew, who was my best friend from when we were younger. He was my best man at my wedding. We were friends forever. He lives in California. So I would call him and we would talk about whatever was going on, movies, TV. By that time, we were watching like Supernatural and all that. And we would end up cracking each other up during the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, we should just record these phone calls just to listen back because we're making each other die laughing. So then I said, well, why don't we record them and do what they call a podcast with them? And just, if we're cracking each other up, surely someone will get a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay. So we did one and released it. And it was kind of a getting to know you, but type of episode.
Yeah. Everybody's first episode.
Right. And then we said, all right, let's make this a little more topic-oriented. Then we ended up doing a 2-hour conversation about the first 6 Friday or 13th episodes.
Oh, wow. That's a heavy topic right there.
Yeah. And we did we did 3 hours, and it was edited to about 2.5. And then we did another one on Jaws. And in 2 hours, we only covered the first 2 movies because we were huge Jaws geeks. And that was under the what? Podcast.
Yeah.
Because it was a tiger shark. What? And that's where we got that from. And then from there, we couldn't quite jive with our times because he had a wife in California and a wife and everything else. And so then I grabbed on with Michelle and said, well, do you want to do something a little more regular? And then we tailored it to our lifestyle and what we're doing with the kids and homeschooling and introducing them to genre cinema. And we ended up going,
awesome.
The
Huh? I say, we shout you out. We shout you guys out a lot. You know that, just because we really do enjoy your show a lot. It's a lot of fun. And so we're going to be winding down on this one, but next episode we'll talk about how you and I connected a little bit. I think, which is not that interesting of a story, but I'll believe it is. But yeah, I've really enjoyed watching you guys grow. It's really fun when you catch a podcast when it's in its infancy and you can kind of influence little tiny things here and there and you see it growing. And I love it. You guys got a great audience. You have some really loyal people. I really enjoy what you're doing. You guys are doing a great job. I definitely appreciate it. So
I thank you.
So let us know how does everyone find your podcast, all that stuff, because we're going to kind of close up here because trying to keep these to half an hour. So let us know where to find your podcast and anything you want us to know before we close up.
Okay, the easiest way, we have a brand new website that came out just last week, Gang Alley, like an alley that you would find a gang in, .com. You can get all our podcast episodes on there. Our YouTube channel link is on there. It's the easiest way to get in touch. I'm on Twitter at Podcast. That's 3 U's. HUUUH podcast. Also, we have the Facebook group. And I'm Dino Gangali. Dino, Dino Gangale on Facebook.
Awesome. And I say, and you are an interesting follow no matter what your views are. Because I mean, you do really run the gambit on a lot of things, and it's you're a lot of fun to watch grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, my Facebook, I used to say it was it was kind of my dumping ground for all my mental, my mental babblings. And that was what I used my Facebook group for. And now that I have my podcast, that's what I do there, and that is one reason why we'll call because you don't know, how does a conversation about a movie like Velocipaster turn into a Bible study?
By the way.
How does that happen? But that
outstanding. Okay, so we're gonna close up for now. Take a listen to part 2 on the podcast. I don't know what day you're gonna be dropping this. I'm sure that we'll have more information by the time we talk. And we'll be dropping this episode Tuesday. So I'm guessing.
Okay.
So I'm guessing Wednesday-ish. We'll talk.
It'll be corresponding right along with y'all.
Okay.
With you.
Very good.
Yep.
So take a listen to the ending music because that tells you where to find us. If you don't know by now, you probably should. If you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to click subscribe and like and comment and tell Dino how cool he is because we all love to hear that from time to time. It's a good thing in life. So until next time, I'm Dub.
I'm Dino.
Keep on geeking on.
You've been listening to iHeartGeek. Our Twitter account is @iHeartGeekShow. Hope you enjoyed the show.